5 things to avoid if you're experiencing sciatic-like pain. Now, this pain could be in the buttocks, down to the hamstrings, in the calf, down as far as the foot, and even into the toes. That could be the big toe or the 4 smaller toes as well. Now, this pain will generally radiate, so it will be a radiating type pain, and it's where the sciatic nerve becomes irritated. Now, I'm not going to be trying to diagnose where the problem's coming in this video. It could be coming from a variety of different tissues, but we're just going to be focusing on the different sort of postures, positions, or movements or loads that are creating the pain, and the 5 main ones to avoid and some possible solutions to be able to put in their place. Number 1 is probably the most important one, and it's don't stretch the nerve. So, as I've mentioned, the sciatic nerve can irritate, or the pain can come out in the buttocks, the hamstrings, the calf, possibly down into the foot. Now, obviously, it's the sciatic nerve that comes out of the base of the spine, travels down the back of the leg. There are branches that sort of wrap around the leg, but it goes down into the lower leg and then down into the foot, or branches of it go down into the foot. So, certainly whilst you're in pain and whilst you're experiencing episodes of pain, you want to avoid stretching those areas. For the very simple reason is stretching the already irritated sciatic nerve or branches of it are potentially going to irritate it some more. And this is going to make the pain more sensitive, or it's going to make the nerve more sensitive and create pain more easily and potentially more often as well. So if you're given stretches, certainly for glutes, for hamstrings, for calf, then you might want to just be very cautious with them to start with. What you want to be focusing on is not necessarily stretching there, but you want to be focusing on movements, postures, positions, and loads that help relieve the pain. If those stretches are aggravating it, then that is something that you want to, in some respects, take away or eliminate straight away, and then take feedback over the next couple of days to see how not stretching it makes your pain, or how sensitive it becomes, how regular it is, and how intense it is. Number 2 is prolonged sitting. Now, if sitting for a long period of time is creating pain in the buttocks, hamstrings, down the calf or into the foot, then we need to manage it. Now, when we are sat, and generally people are told to sit bolt upright and sort of keep everything in line. Now, what people tend to do is they tend to then be static in that position. Now, when we sit statically in a good position or a bad position, it puts pressure and stress on certain tissues in certain areas of the lower back and the spine, and it keeps them there. So very simple solutions could be to change position. If you change position, that changes where the load, the stress and the pressure goes within the lower back, within the spine. Number 2 is to then get yourself up out of the seat. So we've talked about prolonged sitting. So we've talked about the posture that you're in if you're sat down. So you could try sitting down for the same amount of time, but changing the posture. If that doesn't work, you can then think about, well, I'm going to sit down for 5 minutes. I'm going to change my posture within that 5 minutes. And then at the end of the 5 minutes, I'm going to get up and I'm going to walk around the office or walk around the house. And then I'm going to sit back down. See if that relieves the pain. Because what we're doing is we are taking out the potential mechanisms, which could be the sat down and the concentration of the stress and the pressure, or it could be the fact that you are just sat down for a long period of time. So we are trying to break those two up to be able to try and find what is triggering the pain and then what is our solution to the pain. Number 3 is prolonged walking. So similar to prolonged sitting, it could be that the pressure and the stress is all being concentrated on one part of the spine, or it could be the prolonged nature of it. So the capacity at which your lower back can cope with, or the endurance of your lower back, or whatever it might be. So some of the things that you can do whilst if you do have to walk for a prolonged period of time, One would be walk with improved posture, so walking more upright. A second thing could be walking slightly faster, so walking at a bit more of a marching pace, swinging the arms. And then the final thing could be breaking up that walk. So if you are going out for a 20-minute walk or a half an hour walk, it could be breaking that up with short rest periods. So the goal of the prolonged walk is to be pain-free. So if you know your pain comes on after 5 minutes, walk for 4 minutes, rest for 2 minutes, and then walk for another 4 minutes. See if those blocks of walking, so 4-minute blocks of walking, helps either reduce the pain or eliminates the pain. If it started to reduce or eliminated the pain, you've started to find a solution to overcoming your pain whilst walking. So what we are doing, we are not just going out for a prolonged, consistently sort of slow walk. We are starting to improve the posture, improve the pace, and break it up into intervals. Number 4 is spine flexion movements or postures. So we potentially talked about one of those so far, which is sitting. So sitting, people will sort of sit down and they will slouch in their seat. Their spine will flex. Now, this could be a trigger for the pain. So as I mentioned in the sitting one, we can improve the posture, but we've still got to keep moving. But one of the things that it could be is the flexed posture of the spine whilst you sit. So when you improve that posture, bring it into the neutral posture, it will spread the stresses slightly better across the spine and across the lower back. That doesn't mean to say it's going to solve all the problems, but it could go some way to improving the situation that you're in. Then if we move into different movements, like lifting is another one. So when people generally lift, they will flex at the spine, they will pick up whatever they are picking up. If it's a lighter object, they might feel like they're getting away with it because the pain isn't happening immediately. If they go into a heavier object, it's going to be a lot more prominent. So if we go into a neutral posture, it's going to improve and spread the stresses across the lower back much more effectively. Also, bending and lifting with a slightly bent knee is going to take some pressure off the sciatic nerve, relax it ever so slightly, and it's potentially going to improve the lifting posture and movement that you're doing. So number 4 is trying to remove the spine flexion movements and postures that you're in. Number 5 is laying on your back. Now, laying on your back can increase the pressure on the nerve simply just by gravity. If you lie on your back, the spine, the discs, the vertebrae, the whole lot is being sort of, by gravity, it's in some respects being pulled towards the floor, which could be aggravating the nerve. If there is a problem with the disc, if there is a slight bulge to the disc, then all that's going to be happening is that sort of small bulge is just going to be exaggerated because of the weight of gravity pulling that bulge down and potentially irritating the nerve. So one simple thing that could be done is to roll over onto your front. If you roll over onto your front, then you're just essentially taking gravity in the opposite direction. So you may only stay there for a couple of minutes, but what it will do is it will hopefully use gravity to pull the bulge down if that's what's causing the problem, and then that will take the pressure off the nerve, and then the nerve will be more relaxed, so you can then go about sitting, walking, lifting, whatever it might be. So you can use the laying on the front as another strategy, if it works for you, to help you with your prolonged sitting, with your prolonged walking, or your spine flexion movements or postures. So it's another strategy that you can use to help you reduce the pressure of your sciatic-like pain. So the 5 things to avoid if you're experiencing sciatic-like pain is number 1, don't stretch the nerve. You'll irritate it and make it more sensitive, increasing your pain. Number 2 is prolonged sitting. You're going to be concentrating the stress on one part of the back. So we want to improve the posture and also sort of sit in blocks. Number 3 is prolonged walking, much the same as sitting. We want to improve the posture, we want to improve the pace, and we want to break it up into pain-free intervals. Number 4 is avoiding spine flexion movements and postures, because if there is a disc problem and that's the culprit for irritating the nerve, then we're only going to be exacerbating the problem by the bulge keep touching the nerve in that flexion posture. And then number 5 is the final one, and that's laying down on your back. You may find that gravity is sort of putting pressure on the sciatic nerve, so a simple solution is just to roll over onto your front, take gravity the other way, again if it is a bulge that is causing the problem, and then that will start to reduce the pain, or hopefully it will start to reduce the pain, and then you can then go about sort of relieving the problem and going about your sitting, your walking, or your lifting and bending that you want to carry on doing. So many thanks for watching. My name is Chris from Christopher Hole Training. I will speak to you in the next tutorial.